Okay, so today let's talk about what happens when you put an offer in on a house, you get an accepted offer, the offer goes to your lender, and then 2-3 weeks into the process, the file completely blows up and you can't go to closing and you get declined. Or there's all kinds of problems. Just a headache for you. Let's talk about that. Okay, so a couple of reasons that might happen, and these are just some really big reasons why it might happen. A lot of times lenders don't do a lot of background work when it comes to, whether it be employment or it becomes, or maybe businesses owned or currently owned. Or perhaps it might be something else, like you own several properties, right? And a lot of times, buyers don't divulge that stuff to us, not intentionally, it's unintentional, but sometimes buyers don't, give us that information because they're like, hey, I don't have a mortgage on these houses. I own 5 houses. I don't have a mortgage on those. You don't need to know about that. Yes, we do. And let me kind of go through. Let me just start from the beginning with the whole employment. Okay, why would the file blow up because of employment? All right, so part of the application process is getting 2 years of employment. So let's say you had 1 full year of employment. Good, everything's good. And then you had a couple little jobs and like a month in between those couple little jobs. And then you found this job and you've been at this job 6 or 7 months. You didn't tell us about those couple little jobs. You had like a job for 3 months and then you had a job for a week and then you had a month off and then you had a job for another week and you didn't like those jobs and that's okay, but you had these gaps of time off. It's not like you meant to not disclose that to us. It's just a lot of times people don't realize, well, that's just, they a lot of times feel like that's just not important because it's so insignificant. But what's insignificant to a buyer is not necessarily insignificant to a lender because we have to make sure there's not any major gaps without employment. So what's a major gap? 30 days. So 30 days in the last year, so 30 days in the last 2 years. So we, not talking about vacation time or anything like that. We're talking about legitimate where you're not employed. So those things are really important. Transparency is really important. And so really going through that. So that is one of the questions we ask is, are there any gaps of employment? As I can't tell you how many times once I asked that question, how everyone's like, well, yeah, I mean, I did have this job for a week and I couldn't stand it and I left and it took me like a month and a half to find a job. How many times that has happened? So that question is really important, but sometimes it's really missed by lenders. Number 2, other businesses own. So the reason why a lot of times we collect those tax returns and W-2s and all of that up front is because we need to see if you've owned any other businesses. Because if you own another business, let's say for example, you get paid $5,000 a month. Okay, let's just use that as an easy example. And you have this business and side hustles are awesome. But we have to, if you're taking a loss on that side hustle, we have to count that as a loss. Okay, so let's say your side hustle, you've lost $12,000. You took a hit of 12 grand. That's $1,000 a month. Now your income is in a pot. Okay, it's not like, oh, we can use this as a, we'll use this income, but we can't use that as a loss. No, we have to use the losses 100% of the time. So if this business lost 1,000, your regular job made 5,000, now it's 4,000. So that can really affect your debt to income and whether or not you can get a mortgage. Okay, so really important to be super transparent. We don't typically have those issues because we ask for all that documentation. We kind of do that homework up front. So that's not an issue that we run into. But what I'm saying is it can be an issue, especially if your lender is not looking up front. Because let me tell you, once all the documents that you provided to your lender, once they get to the processor and then to the underwriter will look at those documents. So we as a lender, we look at them up front. We want to make sure you're good. And so that's that. So then also properties. If you own multiple properties, whether you have a mortgage on them or not, doesn't matter. You have to tell the lender about those multiple properties. So that's another question that we ask here is, do you own any properties, even if you don't have a mortgage on it? Because you do owe taxes and insurance, so we have to count the taxes and insurance. Even if you own just land, you pay taxes on that land. We have to talk about that. Even if you are behind the scenes and you have a note agreement with a parent or something like that, we need to know about all of that, because we do, our underwriter, our processors do run reports in the background. We find out about businesses. We find out about numerous employers. We find out about properties owned, and people, unintentionally don't realize it, but we will find out about that, and all of it goes against debt to income. So we might as well know it up front, because just because you have a pre-approval letter in your hand, it's a pre-approval subject to full underwriting. Okay? So things can pop up. So it's best to just let's be upfront and let's tell it all. Okay? But it really does start with your lender. Your lender really has to ask those questions. So anyways, those are 3 big reasons why something can fall apart in the underwriting process. Like, why do loans fall apart? Those are the reasons. We don't typically have those things happen. We ask those questions up front, but we hear of that happening a lot. And so you have to make sure you find a lender that is going to be really, really thorough. Okay? All right? Call me with any questions. I'm here for you.